I am fairly certain the phone is going to die. So we'll see if it do, or does, or diz? Dose. If it dose. I'm thinking about I have been thinking about connecting people. And it comes back to that problem of inefficiency of human interaction. He said, as someone who usually avoids human interaction, I just don't like that if you are, say you play some kind of a strange board game, you play that board game, and you have a difficult time finding people who play that board game, and then you find out later that someone who lives right down the street from you plays that board game. That's just, it's just inefficient. That's a bad idea. It's a bad way of doing things. So how do you connect with that person? Particularly and this is probably just an American problem, in American society. There's so many people here that are, actually that's it, there's just so many people. There's so many people that it is rather likely, so many people in cities, it's quite likely that you will find someone who has your same interests. That there is someone with your same interests, but you remain unlikely to find them. So, the idea is to be able to have a system of finding hot single ladies in your area. They're looking for you right now. The idea is that you make a profile, is the only word, but it is kind of a bad word for it, in your area, so it is local, and then you add to that profile hashes of thing hashes of words or combinations of words, so that individuals who are unifiers, public faces, I guess, of these hobbies, can make hashes themselves. So a hash is a one-way function, ideally. It's a one-way function that takes some input and turns it into a mess of what appears to be random data. And then even a slight change to that input, like adding a period to the end of it, changes entirely the output of the key, the random data. So the idea is you can't, if you have the input, you can produce the output, the random looking data. But if you only have the random looking data, it's difficult to go back and find out what the input was. So that, say the game is called Mailbox Lovers 4. Sorry, this is just mailboxes. Lots of mailboxes. Pretty neat mailboxes. You would type in Mailbox Lover 4 and hit enter, and your output would be a random stream of data. Then you would put that on your profile. This is all automatic. The system handles it. And then your profile is, John Smith, Lexington, Kentucky, and then a whole bunch of hashes that you don't know what they are. Now, if you happen to be that guy down the street, Smith Johnson, who has who also plays Mailbox Smashers 4 or whatever I just said, you also put that into your profile, and the key gets generated, and then, hey presto, you just found someone in the same city named John Smith who also has that random key, or that random hash that equals Mailbox Lovers 4, I think is what I said. So the idea of doing this hash method is it prevents people from reverse engineering, what other people's profiles are, this particularly matters in the case of, you know, I don't know another way of saying this, gamma people who are seeking the opposite sex, if you know what I mean. It's like, oh, look, we're perfect matches, we're soulmates. Well, you don't know what she typed in unless you run a hash map or create hash tables, which, like, that's the thing, is the hash tables are, the data is random that you hash unless you use something really obvious for people to regenerate. You know, if you're just like, I like movies, and you put movies in there. Movies is a pretty short word. It's a pretty common word. It's a word people can just try to generate the random data for. So yeah, they're going to match something like that. So there's probably a complexity level or a complexity requirement. But the idea is that if you like this game and the online communities have this game, the online communities can choose a hash for that game. You know, if your game is called Movies, then obviously it would be a bad idea to say, you know, all right, our hash for this sharing system is, or for this meeting system, it's Movies. You would make it like Movies the game, Movies the board game, you know, 2019. Movies the board game 2019, or the release date or year or whatever, something like that, something much more esoteric, so that when people do put that into their profile, it's not patently obvious, you know, what they put in, because they used a short word or common word, and it's something that gets shared only in its unhashed form. Now, that said, if you make a big list of, here's our list of secret hashes, and it's semi-public though still, so like people are still going to know some of them, but the idea is that this would be something that is basically infinite. Or what would be even better would be to generate it so that it has a local connotation or local element, so that it would be like Movies the board game 2019 Kentucky. Then you would have one that's specific to the state. That would also mean that you could, because then you wouldn't be posting keys. You know, I might be over-hackering this, because my first thought is like, okay, well, let's just reverse engineer all the keys, you know? And then you'll have this hash table of all of the hashes, and then you can go searching through them and be like, oh, this female who I'm interested in has, you know, she loves Movie the game, Movie 4, you know, Mailbox Lovers 4. And then I'll add that into my hash map, and then, oh, look, we're matches. That kind of thing. The object is to avoid that. That said, this is not going to be like a dating app or something ridiculous like that. It's just going to be something for creating groups and meeting people that's completely standalone. Now, there is potential for abuse in something like this, to put illicit taglines in there for illicit purposes, but how is it any different from any other, what is it, it's not editorial, it's not a publisher, but a platform. How's that different from any other platform? So, the object is just to be able to find people nearby you who are of, you know, who share interests, and that's it. And you can connect from there, you know, via email, you know, via, probably email is going to be the best choice, or text, or WhatsApp, or, you know, whatever follow-up thing Facebook invents after WhatsApp, after people leave WhatsApp, so that they can leave off WhatsApp into the next Facebook honeypot. It's all there, you know. The idea, I love, I don't want to, like the simplicity of Craigslist, to have something like that where you're making connections in this area, but it's not like it's not becoming the portal to that connection. It's like the introduction. This is what I was talking about before. I think that the online interactions, especially anything that's meant to be social or face-to-face, should be 80-20 or 20-80, whichever, you know, not whichever, but 20 should be online and 80 should be offline. Because the more you put online, I just think it's bad. I don't think we're meant to interact like that. I think it's a bad idea. So the system can be very simple, and it can initiate conversations. It can initiate connections between people, and that's it. So you limit the scope. You don't have to keep track of any of this stuff. Certainly, I don't have to keep track of any of it. It's a rather simple server. You log in. You probably. I'm not even sure if I want logins. I want to make like some other kind of scheme, but people are used to logins, so I don't know. I don't want passwords either, so I don't want to have people's passwords. I'm going to hash them every 6 ways from Sunday, but I just don't want to have them anyways. So I'll probably figure something out. And we'll do mad cookies or something like that, but then people are going to want to get it from different spots, and they're going to want to access it from their Android phone, which is entirely compromised anyways, or their iPhone, which is entirely compromised anyways, or they're going to put their password on their Mark Zuckerberg's new Facebook, or Mark Zuckerberg's new password protection program. This one isn't from Mark Zuckerberg, it's from Zark Muckerberg. Seems legit. So, I don't even think it needs to be that fancy or even that protected. If I associate an account with an email address, I don't know. I just want people to be able to hit it very easily, to not have to go through a whole bunch of steps and jump through a whole bunch of hoops. Oh, install your two-factor authentication. No. And I want the... see, that's the thing, is part of this being 20% online, part of this being just an introduction to connecting to people, this can be a temporary thing. This can be... you can invert this, actually. You can do this, not satanic inversion, but like... You can flip it around, because if you connect, once you've established the connection, the website doesn't even matter anymore. That this person is interested in that thing, and so you have a good connection, and you make that connection through some other medium. If you want to text each other, if you want to email each other, if you want to be on IRC, whatever, you make that connection, and then from there. The tool, the app, the web app doesn't even matter anymore. You can almost delete it afterwards. But then that becomes like, okay, so why don't we create local chat room, hot locals in your area, chat rooms with these hash maps on them. Huh. No, that's weird. No, it would have to stay. It would have to be up for a long time. You would have to enter... that's interesting. What if you create repositories of messages? To create something that was like the equivalent of an IRC chat room, where the chat itself is the hash map, or is the hash of whatever the name is. Then you would have tons of channels, and that's based, that doesn't store the history, so that's not ideal. But if you made a bulletin board, like a really simple bulletin board, you create, you connect to the Mailbox Lovers 2019. I don't remember what it was, the thingy. And you make your post, and your post is, my name's Tom, I love mailbox game players, whatever, I want to find singles in my area, contact me via email. That's your contact information. You're sharing that through there, and it's like a one-shot thing. And once you post it, it's posted, it's there. And then anyone else that wanders into that area and happens to put in that exact key can pull up the data for it. I think it should leave to people. Oh, it's a hash. It's a 256. It's a SHA-256. That's enough. That's enough randomness. You're not gonna step through all of those. At least I hope you're not. The server will shut you down before you step through that many of them. That's interesting. So then you don't even have a login. You don't even have that stuff. That's interesting. Again, yeah, no login. You're just making posts to these things. But there still has to be some measure of server tracking in order to prevent you from just spamming, everything. Although, well, that's the thing. Is even if you do spam everything, then I don't know, people will ignore you at some point, I guess. I don't know. The idea would be that you'd spam everyone, and then you get, your crazy accomplishment is 20% engagement with people. And you get people emailing you going, hey, I love, Tree Climbers 4. And you're like, oh, I don't actually play Tree Climbers 4, but now that I'm connected with you, yeah, I don't know. How is this different from, like, just a meetup in your area? Well, I mean, that's the thing, is you don't make a meetup for an obscure game just because you think one person might be in the area that does it, that plays it. I don't know, something there. I'll figure it out.